Hi, I'm Sylva. Many parents ask me, can you use the Sylva method with children? When do I start and how young? And I said, definitely you can. I have children of my own. Of course, they're grown up, but I started working with them since they were born, basically, because you can. We can work with children for the time even before being born to be able to make sure that in your mind you imagine them growing inside your body, healthy, and that everything is very happy, and then that the baby is going to be born in a very natural, healthy manner. And you can at least do that to assist the birthing process. And throughout their development and their growth, you're able to connect with them in a very subjective way, in a very intuitive way, because you can as a mother or as a parent, as a father as well. So by all means, always use what you've learned in the Sylva method with your children to guide you along the way. But let's talk about teaching your children the Sylva method. The best way to teach your child the Sylva method is for you to be the example. When they observe you practicing, they're going to say, oh my God, this is something that I should do. This is natural. This is good. It makes my mommy and my daddy feel very happy and healthy. Look how happy they are, and they'll want to imitate their parents. So if a child happens to see you, a child of 2, 3, 4 years old happens to see you in a meditation, and they come close to you, then just invite them to be with you and kind of rock them with you, and they can enjoy the presence of having their eyes closed in a very calm manner, in a very wonderful, loving environment with their parent, with their mommy, with their daddy, and they'll soon learn that this type of practice is something that is not only natural, but feels very good, is very loving, and has positive results. As a child gets older, they're going to learn how to think, believe, and behave based on how you think, believe, and behave. You must always think positively so that you can speak positively. Your behaviors need to be good behaviors, resourceful and healthy. That your child needs to observe this kind of thinking, believing, and behaving in parents so that they can learn and adopt the pattern that is very prevalent in their environment. And this is one of the best ways that you can teach a child to be very positive and proactive and resourceful along the way. You guide them, but more than that, you show them by example. As a child gets older and the brain frequency begins to function predominantly at alpha, which is about the age of 7 to about the age of 14, that is a great time for you to step in and actually teach your child formula type techniques. Prior to the age of 7, your child is functioning predominantly at theta as an overall percentage, as an overall frequency that predominates compared to an adult. Now, a child between the ages of 4, more or less, 3 and 4, up to about the age of 7, has more theta than any other frequency. And so the child's mode of thinking is more inductive. They're soaking and taking in information from everywhere. That's why your example is very important to them. When they're very, very young, prior to the age of 2, the predominant brain frequency in comparison to an adult is mostly delta. Of course, a child sleeps a lot. They're not as connected with you in that same way. They don't talk that clearly, and so we understand the reason why. But now the child's 6 or 7 years old, the brain frequency is at alpha. They can deduce and think of ideas and solutions. This is where you need to encourage them to think of outcomes. This is where you encourage them, if they have a problem, to think about what would be some solutions. You guide them along the way. You are their teacher along the way to teach them about solutions and outcomes. If a child has a goal or wants to plan to maybe get something special as a birthday present or Christmas gift, or maybe make a very good test in their grades in school, or make a very good grade in their test, then you want them to imagine that they're going to get those outcomes. And along the way, you want to help them to achieve their goals by helping them to manifest them along the way. Now, a child doesn't have to close their eyes to picture things. Simply tell them, can you picture making a good grade at school? And they'll tend to do this. Their eyes will go up and they'll say, yeah, okay, good. Or can you imagine yourself already riding on your new bicycle? And they'll go, yeah, all right, keep that thought going, because the more you think it, you may be able to attract it. Now, we know as parents that we'll probably get them the bicycle if we can, and of course that we'll probably help to grant all their wishes, but we want them to know that their way of thinking can lead to outcomes. That's a pattern of thinking, from problem to solution, from here to future, from now to to the future. So you want to instill in them patterns of thinking that they will hold on to for the rest of their life. Now, when it comes to being able to create the life of their design, you want them to become very aware that their thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors lead to outcomes. If the outcomes that they're getting are good outcomes, then they continue thinking, believing, and behaving in that way. But they must assume responsibility for that. A child must know that he or she is responsible for what happens in their life. They might be very young, yes, I understand, but they need to learn those lessons when they're very, very young, because this is a time to instill those patterns of behavior, the patterns of thinking and believing that will last them a lifetime. So when a child is young and they begin to understand that when I behave this way that's not very good, my outcome is I'm going to get punished, or I'm going to be sent to my room without dinner or whatever, then that's a cause-effect relationship. And if I don't study, if I make a bad grade, I might not pass the next grade, or I'll get punished. That's a cause-effect relationship. So they need to understand this cause-effect relationship so that they begin to think, believe, and behave in ways that will lead to positive outcomes, and they begin to understand that they are in control of their life and living situation and can create the life of their design. And that's very important. A child must become accountable and responsible for their living experience, and it starts when they're very, very young. When a child is wanting to learn information, the older they get, the easier they'll understand the technique that you have, such as the 3 fingers technique, to learn information clearer and stronger and remember it easier, and their test-taking technique, as well as the memory pegs and the mental screen. Now, these are great tools that you have already learned the Sylva method, and you can teach your child. Visualization and imagination are great ways for a child to lock in information that they're learning. The stronger the impression that they make of the information that they learn, the easier it's going to be to remember that information. So to picture what they're reading, to picture what they're hearing, and then to make a point of reference of that, or to lock it in with their 3 fingers technique, will allow them to recall that information later on when they're taking a test. The mental screen is very important because it's a great tool for children to use to really impress information very strongly on their brains. When one of my daughters was very young, she needed to learn the countries of Central and South America. And she tells me this like 10 minutes before she's going to go to sleep. So I said, my goodness, it's not enough time to study. But then I thought, well, wait a minute. Let's think about the mirror of the mind. So what I asked her to do was to create an image that represented the countries of Central and South America. For example, she created an image of a glass vase, a flower vase. And the V for the vase was for the V of Venezuela. Then she put the vase on top of a bowl. Well, the B for bowl was the B for, let's say, Bogota. And then there was another image that represented another country. As she kept putting things into the vase, then eventually every item, like eggs for Ecuador, hot chili peppers for Chile, maybe peaches for Peru, and a cow for Colombia, whatever it might be. Every image that she put on her mental screen was an image that represented a country. For her, learning the countries of Central and South America were so easy, because when all she had to do to recall the information is picture the image she had created to begin with. Well, she passed that test with 100, and to this day, she remembers the countries of Central and South America. Now, that is real learning. So the tools that you learn in the Sylva method are the very same tools that you can teach your children. And the older they are, the better they understand the concepts. The younger they are, the better they learn by example. And you are their teacher.